For hundreds of years, Nice has been one of the places to visit if you're looking for the good life. Great food and drink, and of course, glorious weather. It's the perfect place to relax, a magnificent location on the French Riviera. But these days, it's also the home of something considerably less relaxing, the Nice Triathlon, which combines 3 disciplines, starting with a 4-kilometre swim across the Bay of Angels. That's followed by a 120-kilometre bike ride through spectacular but demanding countryside. And then, to top it all off, a 32-kilometre run along the Promenade des Anglais in the June sun. Total time? Well, for some, all day. But for this man, Mark Allen, holder of the course record, it can take a little under 6 hours, and this year he's back to defend his incredible record.
I've been here 6 times before, and I've won it 6 times, so I'd say I've had very, very good luck here. It's a great town, it's a great course. It's one of the more challenging courses, technically, that we have in triathlon, and that makes it more interesting for me to come back and try and defend.
Last year, he returned after a 2-year absence to gain that 6th title. It all seemed so easy, but can he make it 7 this year?
The race here in Nice is going to be much more difficult, though, than it was last year. It's not going to be an easy one.
One person who is going to be fighting Allen all the way is fellow American Mike Pigg. Only 26 years old and 3rd last year. He's looking to improve. From Germany comes Wolfgang Dietrich, a noted swimmer who led after the first leg when last here in '86, before fading. He'll be hoping for something better this time. And then there's Rob Burrell from Holland, winner here in '88 when Allen was absent, and second to him last year. He'd love to beat him this time. And so with this man, American Dave Scott, 6-time winner of the Hawaii Ironman. Scott was dethroned by Allen last year. The man's back in Nice and looking for revenge. For the women, Paula Newby-Fraser from Zimbabwe is the clear favourite, an outstanding athlete. At 27, she's at the peak of her career. She won here last year and is looking forward eagerly to this year's race.
I'm really excited for the race. I think I'm a lot stronger. I think I'm faster this year, but you know, at the same time, everybody else is a little stronger and a little faster.
2 people hoping to be just that touch faster are the Puntus twins from Canada. Sylviane on the right was 2nd and Patricia on the left 3rd last year. But Newby-Fraser's biggest challenge this year could come from Kirsten Hansen. Her seemingly frail body generates enormous unsuspected power even on the toughest of bike climbs. And she knows the course well after being a winner here on her last appearance in '87.
I'd really wanted to come back and compete on this course. You know, I had a good race, but I had some problems when I did this before, and I've always wanted to come back to what I think is the most thrilling bike course I've ever ridden.
That sense of anticipation, mixed perhaps with just the faintest touch of trepidation, will be shared by many of her fellow competitors as they await the next day and the start of the race.
Hi everybody, Ross here and Luke.
Hi.
The audio you just heard was from the 1990 Nice Triathlon. It was Ian Sweet on the mic introducing the race. He'll be joined later in the broadcast by Sarah Springman. Sweet was an ex-RAF member, and he features in Steve Chilton's book Running Hard as the RAF cross-country team manager, link in the show notes. From about 1990, he became the in-house English voice at Eurosport. And Dame Sarah Springman, who with Sarah Coop were the best British female triathletes of the 1980s. Sarah first did Nice in 1983 and finished as high as 5th in 1985. Later, she had many administrative roles within triathlon. Facts about the 1990 Nice Triathlon, Luke. What edition is it?
1990. It is the 9th.
Yeah, it's the 9th edition. And the date was the 17th of June 1990, and we'll talk about that date later. The distances at the time were 4,000 metres, so 4K, 120K, and the run was 32K. So I wrote down a few points to why we're doing this one, because we've already done a Nice. We did 1992, which was the Cordier-Allen battle.
They're all Cordier battles, aren't they? All of them.
Exactly. So I think this is probably the first Nice video that we saw on VHS cassette.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's possibly the first triathlon I'd seen on TV. I think everything I think about triathlon now is based off of this race.
And we'll get into this later, but the race was still a big deal at the time on the international calendar.
Yeah, well, you can tell that from the field, that it's a destination race for the pros.
Exactly. In my opinion, it's one of the best English language vintage triathlon videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of their commentary. I'd said in the past that I wasn't really a big fan of it, but I seem to have grown into it, matured into their commentary, and I really like it now.
Yeah, I like it as well. Yeah, it's scripted, but I like the way they do it. I like the bikes. It's kind of old school tech, but they've refined the aero positions. So 1990 was the 4th year of aero bars, and they're starting to look a bit better on them.
Yeah, it is. It's a slightly more uniform, and some of the early aero bar pictures that they really are just making it up, putting them on, and seeing where they think they should be. But you do start to get some sort of, it looks like there's more thought gone into it, maybe.
Exactly. And of course, in the video, you got the scenery, you got the mountain roads, and you got the villages and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
1990, we're coming off a magnificent year in 1989. We had the Iron War, Avignon, the first official short distance world championships. And I noted that a few sort of young stars were coming through, like Miles Stewart, who was 4th in Avignon, but he was also dabbling in long distance.
Yeah, big fan of Miles Stewart, I think.
Me too. Me too. We're going to have to do a Miles Stewart special. Dial him in from Australia.
What a great performance from this young man, taking 4th place overall, and I think his split for the run is going to be the fastest ever. He's under 33 minutes for his run split. A tremendous performance from this 18-year-old Australian, taking 4th place in the World Championships.
Kind of Nice was our Kona because we knew people who had done it or people who were training for it, local people to Slough where we were living. And for me, it was a race that I could see myself doing, like fairly soon. I was 18 in 1990, so I was old enough to do it already. And it was something I could see myself doing because I knew people who were going down there, either flying down there or driving down there.
Right, yeah.
The Hawaii Ironman was something much harder to do. For example, in 1990, Roth was the only Hawaii Ironman qualifier in Europe.
Yeah, as you say, like we knew people that had done it, so that sort of halves the difficulty in knowing you're going to go there. And that I think I'm a bit younger than you, so I wasn't viewing it at the time as like a potential race because for me it might as well have been an Ironman. You know, I wasn't even at that point at the time, but yeah, Hawaii seemed like a distant and unachievable island at the time.
And the people I knew who'd done Nice, of course, I was running with them and stuff, and they used to tell me the stories of it. And they used to mention like the helicopter going up. So you'd be standing on the beach and you'd hear the helicopter going up and you're like, oh, helicopters don't go up at Swindon. Like, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Before we watch the video, Luke, we're going to do a little bit of backstory. We did the 1982 origin story with IMG and Princess Grace in episode 14. So if you don't know that, go back, listen to that one. But what we need to do today is look at the 2 previous editions in 1988 and 1989, because they've got a bearing on what happens in 1990. And there might be a new tradition here, Luke, but I'm going to read you the first 2 or 3 paragraphs of a couple of race reports.
Nice.
Here's 88. C.J. Olivares Jr. It's a banger. Along France's Côte d'Azur, tucked between the conspicuous wealth of Monte Carlo and the cinematic glitter of Cannes, sits Nice, the ancient and unassuming de facto capital of the French Riviera. In Greek, Nice is the word for victory. The city was given its name after its Grecian founders successfully defended their small trading post against invading barbarians in 350 BC. Since that first battle, some 2,000 years ago, the city has struggled through the turmoil of alternating Italian and French rule. Further, barbarian invasions and 2 world wars. Now, Nice stands as perhaps the least pretentious jewel of the Riviera and holds an entirely different meaning for its modern-day invaders. In the language of the triathletes who make the trek to the city each year, Nice translates as competition among some of the world's finest athletes. And at this year's event, the 7th annual, that tradition of top-notch athletic rivalries continued. That's how people used to write race reports for magazines, so we knew what was happening.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's good. I like it.
You do not get that on an Instagram reel or even on
No.
a live stream. They can barely tell you anything on these live streams.
No, that's good. But maybe, they have the privilege of being able to sit down and a bit of time to write it, I suppose.
Sure.
Be good to see a bit more of that again.
This is all we had to understand the racing back then. If we did see it on Eurosport, it was several weeks later. Maybe you wouldn't see it, like only a couple of races were televised, so the other races you could only get through printed words.
Yeah, and I guess if you were super switched on, you might be able to find the results somewhere in a newspaper or something, but you certainly didn't know how the race played out and things.
Exactly.
So, that's what you had.
So some other things to know about 1988. CBS, the US TV network, does not renew its contract. So they'd been televising the event since 1982. Pan Am, the airline, also pulled out. And they were also a sponsor from the first year. And they used to fly in the elite athletes.
Right, yeah.
There was at the time some fear for the future of the event. And even IMG, who was still managing it, apparently were sort of less enthusiastic about the whole thing. And in 88, they dropped the World Championship title. So since 82, they'd been calling themselves a World Championship. So had Hawaii. And it's not on any of the TV coverage or the race reports. And in 88, Mark Allen is missing again. So he won it from 82 to 86, and then he didn't do it in 87 because he wanted to fully focus on Hawaii, because in 87, Nice was also in October. Do you know who won for the men in 87?
Was it Rob Burrell?
Nope.
Oh, no idea then.
It was Rick Wells.
Oh, of course it was, yes.
The 19th century Impressionist painters who worked along the Côte d'Azur used small dabs of color to create their masterpieces. On this day, Rick Wells painted the picture of the perfect triathlon in broad, strong strokes. For Wells, it was not just a victory over Tenley, one of the all-time great triathletes. He had conquered the unknown by testing his own limitations and pushing himself beyond where he'd been before.
Wells looked behind him as he entered the final 800 meters. There was no longer any doubt. The win was his. The race now was with the clock. After nearly 97 miles of swimming, biking, and running, his goal had become finishing under 6 hours. Encouraged by the crowd and excited by the sight of the finish line, the New Zealander, who says he likes beer as much as competition, was about to win his first long-distance world championship. He had proven something to his colleagues, and perhaps to himself, that as some prognosticators of the sport had speculated, Wells had indeed become one of the top triathletes at any distance in the world. His final time, 5 hours, 59 minutes, 53 seconds. Exhausted, Richard Wells still managed to smile. He tried to cool off and replenish his body fluids on what had become an extremely hot afternoon in Nice. He made his way through the crowd, but stopped to talk with our Craig Nasdaq.
Richard, congratulations. You were the confident one before the race. You said you could do it. You came out of the swim ahead. Did you ever worry that they might catch you?
Yeah, I don't think I had it won until I crossed the line.
Well, you had a great lead in the swim, and you held it all the way through. Now, you've won the short distance world championships. You've won the long distance world championship. Are you the best triathlete in the world?
One of the best. I wouldn't say I was the best. There's a lot of good guys out there, and today I had a good day, and so I'm happy.
You said if you didn't win, you'd head straight for the beer tent. Now that you've won, what are you going to do tonight?
I'll head for the beer tent.
Scott Denley had been valiant in his attempt, but the title had already been decided. His time, 6 hours, 7 minutes, 23 seconds, was 7.5 minutes behind the winner. So the final men's standing showed us that after Wells and Tinley, the local favorite, Hervé Niquet of France, passed Andrew McNaughton and 13 others to finish third.
Dispirited by the loss of her lead, Cannon began to doubt herself. Soon she was involved in another battle as newbie Fraser closed in. Second place hung in the balance. But Cannon, finding energy where she thought she had none, was able to increase her tempo. She
not only held her place, she actually started gaining on the lead.
Cannon's burst of energy came too late because this story had already been written, and it was a tale of monumental accomplishment by a heroine who refused to succumb to pain or give way to the odds. Spurred on by the crowd, Kirsten Hansen knew now that she had won the World Championship. The finish line was within sight, and the burden of the challenge was about to become the elation of the achievement. The comeback was complete. The 26-year-old resident of Denver may have garnered her greatest athletic feat halfway around the world.
Only seconds behind was Cannon. Her face showed the pain of fatigue and frustration.
It was the closest race in the history of the event. The precise difference between first and second place was 30 seconds, and the two appeared bonded by the competition.
And in 88, the 1987 female winner, Kirsten Hansen, was also focusing on Hawaii, and so was third placer from 87, Paula Newby-Fraser. So the top fives in 88, Luke. Erin Baker won for the women. Jan Wanklin, Sarah Koop, third. Colleen Cannon, fourth. And Kristen Frost in fifth. For the men, 88. Do you know the male winner in 88?
I'm going to keep saying Rob Burrell until I get it right. Rob Burrell.
You are correct.
Right.
Molina was second. Tinley was third. Right. Cordier was fourth. Ken Glar was fifth. And a friend of the show, Brad Kearns, was sixth.
Nice.
I've done a blog post about that year, and I'll link to it in the show notes because there's some pretty good images of bikes, especially in the second year of Aerobars.
Nice.
Is it possible in a race like this that Molina could have any sort of a finishing kick?
I think it is, especially if he gets him within his sights. But it's coming down now to the wire, and I believe that Burrell's got it. Look, you can see he's raising his arms. He's taking his time. He's looking around. He's really enjoying coming up to the finish. Remember, he's wanted this win for a long, long time. And here he is, the final few meters. He's been told how far Molina is behind. He knows Molina has no chance now of catching him. Look at that. It's wonderful to see a European for the very first time taking this, the premier triathlon event in Europe.
What a magnificent moment for Holland's Rob Burrell, about to become the first European to win the Nice International Triathlon. He had an excellent swim, a superb bike race, and now tops it off with a great run. And there you see his time, 6 hours, 5 minutes, and 6 seconds for the champion Rob Burrell of Holland.
And that represents a split of 2:06. But here is Molina. Look at that. That was the distance between them. Very little in it. But Molina will be delighted with this second place finish. And it shows the caliber of these athletes. You still see there are plenty of cyclists coming in yet to go out onto the run. But Molina split there under 2 hours, 1:59.32. Scott Tinley in third place. He knows he's captured third. He'll be happy with that because the times are really very good. There was just 36 seconds in it between Burrell and Molina, and here comes Tinley a further 7 minutes back with a time around 6 hours and 12 minutes.
I know that Scott will be pleased with that time, but I know how much he wanted to win it. This is one race he has never won, and I know how keen he was this year, and he thought he could. 6 hours, 12 minutes, and 54 seconds for Scott Tinley. And now here comes the Frenchman Yves Cordier. 6 hours, 14 minutes, and 2 seconds.
And Cordier split for the run, 2 hours and 8 minutes.
I had a magnificent season this year. I had 17 victories already this year. But this one is the best one of my whole career since 1982.
There's no question that Erin Baker is going to win the women's portion.
No doubt whatsoever, and her time on the run, incredible. It looks like she's going to get a sub 2 hour, 5 minute clocking, and if that is true, it'll be the 5th fastest of the finishers so far. A brilliant performance, a stunning athlete, and just amazes the world what she is capable of doing. This is a repeat victory. 1985 she was a winner here. 1986 she actually crossed the line first, but was disqualified later on because of getting some unofficial assistance, but here she is again coming back and taking all the glory. A brilliant performance, the money, the prestige. 6:27.06 for Erin Baker, a new course record.
And the amazing thing, Steve, is that puts her in 11th place overall.
Absolutely. Nothing short of magnificent. What a performance from this lady from New Zealand. And there's no doubt about it, the legs have taken a tremendous toll after the hills on the cycling course and this 20-mile run course. But Jan Wankling, a delighted triathlete, coming into second place. Overall time going to be around 7 hours, 7 minutes. Her running time about 2 hours and 19 minutes, so 15 minutes slower than the time set by Erin Baker for the run portion.
So second place goes to Jan Wankling of Australia, who had a great swim. She suffered a bit in the bike ride, but she certainly put it all together in the run. And now Sarah Coop, you've got to wonder if she can indeed finish. She is really struggling. Look, she can't get up the ramp. She can't be touched. She has got to cross the finish line by herself. Can she do it? She's done it. She has finished. A tremendous effort from Sarah Coop. Third place, 7 hours, 9 minutes and 17 seconds. And now she's being administered to by the paramedics, and they're giving her oxygen.
And it shows the trouble she was in the last kilometre or so there, because Jan Wankling opened up a 2-minute gap on her. But what a great race we've seen today.
So we'll just quickly look at the distance history. So when the race started in 82, the distances were 1,500, 98 kilometres and a marathon.
This sounds like my worst nightmare.
Exactly, yeah.
If you had to design me an untriathlon, that would be it.
And I've read different reports, but some reports say the swim distance was even halved because the water was so cold. But it was supposed to be 1,500, and a marathon. So the following year, and so from 83 to 87, they moved the race back into October, sort of early mid-October, so the water was warmer. And the swim was 3,200. So again, I think that's for the Americans, it's 2 miles. The bike ride, they found what became the traditional course, 120k, and then they reduced the run to 32k because the American Pro says they're not going to run a marathon a few weeks before Hawaii because this was a time when they were kind of doing both. So that was 20 miles, 32k. Right. In 1988 is when they moved the swim to 4k.
Right, nice, good move.
Yeah, very good move. So I love these distances, 4k, 120k, then it was 32k, and in 1994, 4k, 120k, 30k. Because in 1994 it was the first year of the ITU World Long Distance Championships, and they wanted it all metric, all round.
Yeah, no, they're nice. Good balance, I think.
Let's move on to 89, and I'm going to read you a couple of paragraphs again, Luke. Nice, return of the American legend. The maritime Alps plunge steeply into the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean near the Italian border of the French Riviera. Sweeping bays with wide, flat beaches punctuate the coastal cliffs, adding a gentle contrast to the rugged alpine terrain. There is a special allure to this region of striking beauty and moderate climate that has drawn people for centuries to the legendary coastline called the Côte d'Azur. Situated at the head of the Baie des Anges, Bay of Angels, in the sheltered natural amphitheatre formed by the maritime Alps, lies Nice, the queen of the Riviera, founded by the Greeks in 350 BC as a modest trading post called Nike, Greek for victory. Nice has flourished through a millennium of changing rulers and cultural influences. The Nice of today is a comfortable blend of the casual pace of old Mediterranean charm and the bustle of France's growing international business prominence. Old Nice is a maze of terraced, twisting lanes, lined with tall, red-roofed houses, bright with flowers hanging from the shuttered windows. As they have done for centuries, vendors peddle their wares from tiny shops lining the cobbled lanes, while locals linger at the outdoor cafes. Just to the west is evidence of Nice's plunge into the future, with high-rise construction dotting the skyline and chic boutiques prominent along the wide, traffic-choked boulevards. The people, while reflecting the cultural diversity of their past, are passionately French, exemplifying the country's lust for the good life. Joie de vivre.
Nice.
So 89, Mark Allen was back, and so was Paula Newby-Fraser. Her best result was third in 87, but she was about to go on a run of 4 Nice wins in a row, starting in 89. She was also the reigning Hawaii Ironman champion. In 89, there was the date change, as the race took place on the 28th of May rather than in October. This was to bring some lustre back to the event, as pros wouldn't have to choose anymore between Nice and Hawaii. To give the race more prominence again, there was a reinforced prize money, $78,000. Top fives in 89, so Newby Fraser, Puntus, Moss and Wanklin again. And then awesome men's podium as well. Allen, Burrell, Pig third, Cordier fourth again. He's not even getting on podiums. And Glar fifth again.
Nice. You get some. They're regulars, aren't they? Regulars. It's a regular field. They obviously like a bit of Côte d'Azur at that time of year. Well, not that time of year because it's changed, but it is the same faces. But it's obviously a great race to go to.
Back then, obviously, it was a time where the top athletes did all distances. They'd be doing Olympic distance. They'd be doing an Ironman or two every year. And this was somewhere in between. And especially for guys like Pig, Burrell, this suited them more than Hawaii, for sure, with the climb in and slightly shorter distance.
Nice, yeah. You've got to go where the money is.
Exactly.
This is Mike Pig, who looks like he might be feeling the effects of the 80-degree temperatures.
Yes, but there's number one, Rob Burrell, who appears to be making up ground on Pig. Yves Cordier still looking comfortable in fourth position, checking his watch, as even though he knows he may not place further up than fourth, he wants to set a personal record. And this man about to set history in the Nice Triathlon, coming up for a six-time win. He is to Nice as Dave Scott is to the Hawaiian Ironman.
Mark Allen over the final few meters in the 1989 Nice Triathlon, as Steve pointed out, gunning for his sixth victory. He raises the visor in appreciation of the tremendous fan support he's received, and he really is a crowd favorite here in Nice. Up the ramp and across the line. 5 hours, 54 minutes, 29 seconds. That's a record time for this course. The headlines when he won race number 5 said it must be nice to be in Nice if you're Mark Allen. It's unbelievable to think what the headlines will say now, because he has just won this race for a sixth time. He missed a couple of races over the last 2 years after having won 5 in a row, and then he came back to win an incredible sixth race. That time again, 5 hours, 54 minutes and 29 seconds.
And look what happened for second place. Rob Burrell has taken Mike Pig and he goes over to kiss his mother. It is Mother's Day in France today. There he is, a joyous Rob Burrell from Holland. First last year and a jubilant second this year. And a time bettering his last year's time, 6:1:17, his last year's time, 6:05:06.
Mark Allen kissing the medal. What a great race for him. And coming in for third place, Mike Pig of the United States, and his time, 6 hours and 3 minutes. A good time and a good race for Mike Pig, who battled Mark Allen out in the run, but was overtaken by Rob Burrell. And now Yves Cordier getting a warm welcome from the hometown fans, coming in to take fourth place, and his time, 6 hours and 10 minutes. But
no doubt about our leader, though. Here she is. After winning the 88 Ironman in Hawaii, she's going to take it all today in the 89 Nice Triathlon.
About 50 meters to go now for Paula Newby Fraser from Zimbabwe. She now makes her home in the United States, and she is going to win the women's portion of the 1989 Nice Jeep Triathlon. She comes up the ramp, and she is all smiles. The victory is hers. Paula Newby Fraser wins the women's portion.
And her time, 6 hours, 49 minutes and 42 seconds. A little slower than Erin Baker's of last year, but a comfortable victory. We understand Sylviane is about 2 minutes back.
And while Paula Newby Fraser wins it, second place is going to a Canadian, Sylviane Pontos from Kelowna, British Columbia. The final few meters up the ramp, 6 hours, 51 minutes, and 45 seconds for Sylviane.
And what a great month it's been for her, with a first place in Phoenix and a first place in Miami and a second place here today at Nice, being comforted by the winner Paula Newby Fraser and helped out there by Scott Zagarino. She'll be wondering now what's happened to sister Patricia. And here she actually comes up to the finish ramp. Obviously, the final few kilometres took their toll, but she gallantly finishes it off with a 7:01 clocking to take third place overall.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the rivalry with Hawaii, because modern athletes think it's Kona, it's always been Kona. But there was this period in the mid-'80s where Nice was absolutely a challenger. And I would challenge anybody to look down the results of the time and tell me that the field in Hawaii was consistently better, because I don't think it was. Hawaii maybe had more prestige. Dave Scott used to say that he was the Ironman, that was his brand, and he had to go and defend every year. But Alan, for example, he wanted to win both. And once he started winning Nice, he wanted to keep winning it. And it was only later in his career where he thought, Hawaii is missing from my Palmaris, I have to go and get it. Molina, for example, preferred Nice because he didn't like the heat. Tinley wanted to win both, but Nice was a big deal for him. He was there nearly every single year.
Tinley was a regular in France quite a bit, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, he used to do Avignon every year. Alan and Tinley from 85 up to about 88 were going to Avignon every year, and Dave Scott sometimes would join them. Away from the States, France was the second biggest triathlon scene in the world, so the Americans were going back and forth quite a lot. And the rivalry between the races was definitely driven by the TV companies, so ABC for Hawaii and CBS for Nice. 82 and 83, the two races were 6 weeks apart. 84, they were 4 weeks apart, but then this is the crucial part. 85, 86, 87, the races were only 2 weeks apart. So that is kind of the high point of the rivalry.
Right, yeah, where you were forced to make a decision, really.
In his book, Iron Will, Mike Plant explains what was going on between Nice and Ironman in 1985 and 1986. Chapter 11 is called Big Bucks and the End of a Dream, and picks up the story just after the 1985 Hawaii Ironman. Joanne Ernst and Scott Tinley were the winners. However, none of the other normally expected male challengers were there. Dave Scott, Mark Allen, or Scott Molina. Quote, Scott Tinley's win at the Ironman in 1985 was a spectacular achievement, especially when viewed in the context of the competitive season that had preceded it. Starting on April the 19th of that year, he had raced 20 times on 3 continents before the Ironman, an average of almost 1 triathlon a week. Only once during that time did he finish out of the top 3. He was 4th at the Bud Light USTS National Championships in late September. During one stretch, just before the race in Hawaii, he put together a string that only his former training partner, Scott Molina, could have comprehended, let alone duplicated. A win at the Houston USTS on September the 1st, a first place at the Ironman distanced Cape Cod Endurance Triathlon on September the 8th, a second place to Molina at the San Diego USTS, a tie for first with Molina at the Bass Lake Classic a week after that, then the 4th at the USTS Nationals on September the 28th. Then he took a week off before the Nice Triathlon on October the 12th, where he took 2 bad falls on his bike and still finished a heroic second to Alan. That left Tinley 2 weeks to heal before the Ironman in Hawaii on October the 26th. Then there's a few paragraphs about Tinley's 1985 Ironman bike, which turned heads at the time for its aerodynamic advancements. We'll cover that in an upcoming episode about the 1985 Triple Crown. The sport of triathlon had come a long way. There were signs, however, that the Ironman itself had not come far at all. The absence of prize money in Hawaii had had its effects. The field of top men at the 1985 Ironman was weak. Dave Scott had retired, and most of the other stars had ended their seasons in Nice 2 weeks before. A race that was beginning to make its self-label of World Championship stick by offering a $75,000 purse for the 3rd year in a row. By contrast, the Ironman, which had been calling itself the Triathlon World Championship since October 1982, cost a guy like Tinley several $1,000s. None of his expenses were covered. The trip was worthwhile for ST because he was pushing his clothing line and his new book. In a promotional sense, an Ironman win was worth a great deal, but he had to win. Second place for Tinley in the absence of Dave Scott would have been a career disaster. In 1985, the sport of triathlon was full of talk about a war between Ironman and Nice, and it was widely acknowledged that the more commercially orientated European race, still promoted and packaged for television by IMG, had purposefully positioned itself 2 weeks before the Ironman to steal the competitive thunder from the American event. Premeditated or not, that was what happened. If you subscribed to the war theory and were gauging things from a purely competitive standpoint, then you had to say that Nice was winning big. There were certainly no doubts as to what drove the engines of that event. The elite athletes are the essence of Nice, said David Michaels, the producer of the Nice broadcast for CBS, because what we're attempting to do is to present triathlon as a real sport. To cover it the way we want to cover it, we must have the best in the world. That kind of talk was music to the ears of the top triathletes. Officially, the Ironman denied both the war and the tarnish on their star. Valerie Silk had never felt close to elite triathletes. She didn't feel they were an exceptionally important part of the race. If the field that backed up Tinley lacked strength, what of it? The Ironman still had that good, strong, human element as a base. It still represented the ultimate challenge for the average man, who didn't need aerodynamic handlebars to find what he had come to Hawaii to find. When a question about the Nice Ironman scheduling conflict was asked at the post-race press conference in 1985, it was brushed quickly aside by the Ironman press coordinator, an action that so frustrated Tinley, who had gone into the conference determined not to get himself in trouble by speaking out, that he answered the question himself, giving the press much more of an earful than the Ironman had bargained for. They were saying basically that the Ironman doesn't care where Nice is, Tinley said later, that they put on their race, published the date far in advance, and couldn't care less if the pros come or not. That made me mad. That wasn't the right attitude. The right attitude would have been to recognise that Nice was an important race, and to make every effort to work with it so the two events didn't conflict. David Downs, a programme director for ABC, recalled Silk's private fears. Valerie was very concerned as the issue developed. Is the Ironman falling behind the times? Should it have prize money? Is it a race for freaks or a race for elite triathletes? And so on. There were some people who were trying to put some fairly heavy pressure on her to change her position. On a number of occasions, she came to us and asked what we thought. Unlike CBS, however, ABC was not tied to the professional focus. We told Valerie, Downs said, that number one, the race was her business. We didn't want to get involved in it. Number two, we felt that the key to the success of the Ironman from the ABC television standpoint was that it was the original, the most well-known, that it had the most interesting stories, etc., etc. We felt that regardless of whether she had any elite athletes or not, we would rather have the Ironman triathlon on the air than any of the other triathlons on the calendar. On the other hand, there is no doubt in our minds that the Ironman is a better race for having Scott Tinley and Dave Scott running up at the front. That was the crux. If the Ironman was going to be the best, it had to have it all. The great stories, the human drama, but the best triathletes too. Otherwise, as Swiss triathlete Karl Kupferschmidt, who placed third behind Tinley and Hinshaw in 1985, suggested, the Ironman will become a race for tourists. The Ironman was a tough freebie, especially since big prize money races in Europe and Australia had sprouted on both sides of it. Why sacrifice your body to the Queen K for nothing when you could be racing for money, or at least saving yourself for your next event, which was surely to be coming along in a week or two? In short, by 1985, the Ironman was starting to slide. On an emotional level, it was still the biggest race in the world. It was still the Ironman, the ultimate goal of every triathlete, from Tokyo to Toledo. But it had not been a world championship that year, not even close. But the gift of an anonymous donor in 1986 was unprecedented. $100,000, earmarked solely for prize money. In several strokes of a pen, the Ironman went from being a stodgy, near anachronism to being the biggest prize money triathlon in the world. The donor, who is firm in his desire to remain unidentified, made his offer to Valerie Silk soon after the race in 1985. She was stunned. $100,000. Note, we know who the anonymous donor is now. I knew that it would happen someday, she said. I knew that it was something that we would do at some point. When funds became available, I didn't think the funds would be available so quickly. It took me probably 2 months of thinking on it before finally deciding that, yeah, maybe it's time to go ahead and take the step, Silk said. Even after the money was available, I still wanted to talk to a lot of people and do a lot of thinking about it. We discussed it among the staff quite a bit, talked to other race directors, other people in the sport, people in other sports. If Silk had turned the offer down and word of it had gotten out, she probably would have turned both herself and Ironman into laughing stocks. As the anonymous donor pointed out, even the age group triathletes wanted to see themselves as competing in a championship caliber event. Such blatant disregard for that aspect of the race would have been unforgivable. But Silk took the money, despite the fact that it scared her. Then, because it scared her, she hired Bob Bright, the controversial race director of the America's Marathon in Chicago, to administer its distribution. Bright, best known for his highly publicized and slyly orchestrated rivalry with New York Marathon race director Fred Lebow, had established a reputation as a man who could handle the volatile brew of world-class athletes and big-time money. Bright's main objective for the Ironman that year was to have the top triathletes perform spectacularly. The ideal scenario in his mind was to have Dave Scott and Scott Tinley, with perhaps one other good but largely unsung competitor, make the final turn into Ali Drive, all within yards of one another, pushing to the end, not just for the money, but for the win. One of the tools to accomplish his goal was appearance money, a tactic that had become standard procedure in the marathon business, but which was looked on in triathlon circles with distaste. Since Nice, the shorter of the two events, came first on the schedule, Bright knew that the top guys would try to race in France, then turn around and race in Hawaii. He was unhappy with that scenario. He didn't want just the best names racing in Kona, he wanted the bodies that belonged to them. I feel much more comfortable, he said, when key athletes focus on events. So he set the prize purse at $85,000, added several performance bonuses, and, using money from the Ironman coffers beyond the $100,000 grant, offered the two key men, Tinley and Scott, $6,000 each if they would race at Ironman, and only at Ironman. He offered Ernst $4,300. Lesser deals, expenses only, no appearance money, with the same conditions, were made with a small group of other pros, top finishers from 1985, and past winners like Sylviane Pontus, with the understanding that along with the cash, there would be considerations the top athletes had never before been offered in Hawaii, an elite athlete hospitality suite, a special pre-race meeting, and a limited level of technical support on the bike course. Because the athletes were paid to race, a breakdown like the one Allen suffered in 1982 would have hurt not just the athlete, but the Ironman's investment. In short, the professional triathletes would be treated like elite performers, with a degree of respect to which they had long aspired. Bright also made an offer to Mark Allen, but it was more out of courtesy than expectation. Not that Allen wasn't interested, but he was being represented at the time by IMG and had strong commitments to the Nice event. Bright actually counselled him to stay where he was. Molina was approached as well. Like Allen, his stature in the sport demanded it, although he had already made it clear that he wasn't interested in the Ironman, prize money or not. Tinley was uneasy with Bright's manoeuvring. He felt pressured, and he disliked being pressured more than anything in the world. What he preferred to do was pick up an appearance check and some prize money in France, then fly back and do battle with Scott in Hawaii. His record showed that he was capable of that, and others agreed. Meanwhile, Dave Scott signed on. He'd done some public waffling, some last-minute negotiating with Bright, making sure he was getting the best deal he could, but it was academic. He would no more have left the Ironman to Tinley than he would have grown a beard and walked off to live in a commune in Oregon.
I'm here in one of the largest ranches in the Northwest. Today, it's Rajneeshpuram because a prominent Indian guru and his followers bought it.
Our vision was to create a community
based on compassion and sharing. Book One's agenda was simply to raise the consciousness of humanity. That was his goal.
There was even less of a chance that he would have raced Nice and Ironman, knowing that Tinley was going into Hawaii rested and fresh. As for Tinley, it's a tough sport to be in, he said, because I'm one of only 2 or 3 people who can do both races 100%, and I have a chance at winning both, which puts even more pressure on me. It bothers me because the Ironman isn't paying me to do the Ironman. They're paying me to not do Nice. There were too many ifs for ST. If he took the Ironman offer, then raced poorly in Hawaii, it would mean he'd made a big financial mistake. $10,000 worth, perhaps more. If he raced in Nice and crashed and couldn't come back and be competitive with Scott 2 weeks later, he'd be out again. If he and Scott both turned their backs on the Ironman, the race might suffer a big loss of credibility. Or worse, suppose it didn't even flinch. Suppose it was great without them. To be continued when we look at the 1986 Triple Crown, hopefully this summer. So going into the 1990 season, Mark Allen was on a 21-race winning streak, which started at the Bermuda Triathlon on the 5th of November 1988. Not to be confused with the 8-race winning streak that he outlines in his book, and that is where I got the name for the Streak podcast. Dave Scott was determined to have another good season. 89 was a good one. He was winning on the USTS. He did well on the Gold Coast, which was a big race at the time. He broke the Ironman world record in Japan. Do you know what he did that day?
No, 8:10.
8:01.
Oh.
He took the record off Axel Koenders, 8:13. Axel Koenders did 8:13 in Rote in 88.
In Rote.
And then, of course, he got second in Hawaii in the Iron War. In March, Ken Glar finished second in that Ironman New Zealand sprint. Do you remember that?
Yeah, with Pauli Kiuru.
Exactly, yeah. And that was a time where we thought, well, an Ironman, it's decided a long time before the last kilometre, but they were sprinting down the last 100.
Yeah. Kiuru and his aviators, Scania, his Scania sponsorship.
Yeah.
Awesome. Was Kalengar Foxcatcher at the time?
I think he was probably Foxcatcher at the time, yeah. I've kind of half made notes on a podcast about teams, like early teams, like Foxcatcher, Pioneer, J. David, Bedford Harrier, so we'll have to do that at some point. Mike Pigg was racing a lot, Olympic distance, USTS stuff. He went to the Gold Coast early May, and he even won a race the week before Nice. He won USTS San Jose just 1 week before Nice. So he did that and then packed his bike and flew to Nice for a longer race. So in France, Yves Cordier was coming back from injury again, and Sarah mentions it in the video. He had an operation on his back. And do you know what other athletes in France were blaming for his back injury, Luke?
No idea. Some things probably unbroadcastable.
It was because they said he was using a low profile with aero bars.
Right.
And that was bound to give you back problems. Do you remember the low profile he had? And then he had aero ones on it.
Yeah, was it like, it was a Vitus, was it? I must agree with them that the low profile with aero bars seems counterproductive.
Yeah. And in an interview in Triathlete France, he said he might start in Nice. He was on pretty decent form because he got second to Lessing in a sprint a few weeks before Nice. He did start in Nice, still suffering from his injury, and he got 33rd. And in the video, you can see him getting passed by Paul and Newby-Fraser towards the end.
Yeah, I've got that in my notes.
The first French athlete was kind of going to be between Philippe Métion and Eric Plantin. Do you remember Eric Plantin, the commentator from the indoor triathlon in Bordeaux?
Oh, yes.
Right. Backstory over, Luke. The video.
Yes.
Right. I'm going to set the scene again with another little reading, if that's okay. And then we'll go through our best bits. Go for it. So this one is from CJ Olivares Jr. The one before was from Gary Newkirk. Summer mornings near Roquesteron are wonderful. The sun peaks above the surrounding maritime Alps, highlighting the 30-foot pine trees that cover the rugged inclines. The air is refreshingly cool. Damp clothes hang on laundry lines and dance in the light breeze. Locals amble happily to the market for their daily supply of baguettes, vegetables, and wine. It's a peaceful setting, typical of many French mountain villages, a postcard come to life. On the morning of June the 17th, the splendour of Roquesteron's summer tranquility was disrupted just before 10:30. A pair of motorcycle-mounted gendarmes roared through the village with sirens wailing. German triathlete Wolfgang Dietrich was not far behind, fighting to maintain the lead he had established in the swim. Mark Allen and Mike Pigg blazed down the narrow streets of the centuries-old village a minute later. Behind them, on the climb to the midpoint of the 120-kilometre bike course, streamed a parade of 1,200 athletes that would occupy the road through town for the next 3 hours. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. It's something I sort of mention in all of them about these early recordings, videos of triathlon and stuff, is that I think they really did the montage well. The pre-race footage they get, I love it. It's like where sun's coming up and the pros are walking in their tracksuits, and then they'll flick to some amateurs getting their bikes ready and stuff like that. And I think that's great. And like we've talked about how it's a big race and the pros are there for the money, but Formula One, it is not. So for everything that is super pro about it, there's so many things that are not, and that I find quite endearing. One of the things I got noted, there's like a guy in transition area, and I don't think some people don't even know these things exist, but there was a guy like pumping up his tyre just using his frame pump. I just wouldn't have enough faith to go out on 120k on a tyre that I pumped up with a frame pump. Yeah, that was something I noticed. There's a good shot of some early nutrition, and it was just food heavily taped to a top tube. But I can't even remember what food it was now. But I do remember it was not energy gels or something like that. But it sort of sums up what this day is going to be. It's going to be a long day, and a hard day. But it's good. I love those bits.
Yeah, brilliant. My first point, I've got intro montage. And then after I said, show it to anyone to convince them how awesome triathlon is.
Yeah, it really sets the scene. And they always put it to some good music and stuff. They scan around and they look at the pros' kits and stuff like that. And I find that's great. I find that super nostalgic. They had Ken Glass, Brooks Kona Coast.
Yeah.
And they were like the dream shoe for a triathlete. And really, they were like triathlon specific shoes, but it just had a couple of hooks on it, really. So you could pull them on easier, but amazing, and I wanted some.
Yeah, setting the scene for the race, but also the sport. Like, this sport has different equipment.
Yeah.
I noted the heat haze on the Promenade des Anglais, which they always seem to show to say it's hot down here.
Yeah, and I suppose you say, they're not just selling the race, they're selling the sport, because I think we've said this before, it was new. So you were selling the sport, because there might have been loads of people that turned on their Eurosport, having bought it to watch anything and gone, well, what's this all about?
Not only was it fairly new, it was hard to see. Because in 1990, we had one triathlon a year on the BBC. So in 89, it was Southport. 1990, in September, they showed Portsmouth. But for years, it was just one race, wasn't it, on the BBC?
Yeah.
Eurosport, you could see a few more, but it was quite hard to see.
The gentle waves of the Mediterranean lapping the shoreline. An early morning fisherman winds in his line. And on the beach, there's little sign of the coming event, the 9th annual running of the most prestigious race, the Nice Triathlon. But at 6 o'clock, the bike park opens, and as the first competitors enter, preparation begins in earnest for the 8 o'clock start and a long day ahead. The months of training are over, and now it's only a matter of checking everything. Nothing's left to chance. With such a challenge in front of them, the triathletes are meticulous in their preparations of both their equipment and themselves. This year we have over 1,000 athletes from 32 countries from around the world. New Zealand, Japan, Brazil, and closer to home, Russia and Czechoslovakia. They tune their minds and their bodies for the anguish that lies ahead.
My first one, it's at 5:18, and it's the little pink Avoset. Can you explain what an Avoset is?
Yeah, it's like an early bike computer, like that you would put a magnet on your wheel and then a sort of a transponder on the fork, and then you would wind the cable round your fork leg up to the handlebar, and it would give you minimal information, provided you'd sort of measured out a wheel rotation correctly and put the numbers in.
There was presets, weren't there, built into the computer, but it was better to sort of measure it yourself and put in the exact millimeterage. But I noticed the pink because I'm sure other brands did it, but Avoset were famous for having like lots of different colours. So at the time of sort of day glow bikes were the thing, weren't they? And kit. So you could get a pink or a green Avoset computer to match the day glow colours of your bike. Yeah, and I had a day glow green Dave Russell, but I had a pink Avoset. I'm not sure if I couldn't get the green or I just thought the pink would look good and it would like turn heads and people would go, whoa.
Who is that skinny kid?
You got one?
Yeah, well, if I'm not moving on too quick, you got the swim, and we talked about the swim when we spoke about the swim start. Sorry, when we spoke about Nice before, and like it's not changed. It's manic. It's just like I like the fact that it was just like hazard tape across their chests, like that then gets tangled everywhere. So you have that sort of amateurness of it, but then when they get out to sea, like there's lane ropes, like miles out at sea. Yeah, so it's good. And they are a long way out at sea. It's an adventurous swim.
We've spoken about the start before, but it was absolutely crazy. These days there was over 1,000 people, and they were all squeezed into about, I don't know, maybe it was 100 metres worth of beach, but we just lined up and went for it.
It's a long time into the swim before you start to sort of get an actual leader, and there's several spearheads as they're swimming towards the first buoy. There's several lead points, isn't there?
Yeah, and the first buoy was quite a long way offshore, so you had time for it sort of to spread out.
And so, with their preparations completed, a huge field of over 1,000 competitors make their way down to the beach for the start of the 1990 Nice Triathlon. Sarah, you've been through this before. What's actually going through their minds?
Well, for the pros, this is one of the blue ribbon events. Everyone wants to win it. But for the vast majority, of course, they've trained, saved, and dreamed all winter of this moment. 1,000 athletes and the tension is building.
We're seconds from the start, nerves on edge for everyone, including the pros.
And there's Pig on the left alongside Alan. They're going to have a really tough competition today.
The mare's ready to send them on their way. And they're off.
And this is a frightening time when everybody leaps into the surf and you start trying to swim. Oxygen is at a premium at this time.
It looks pretty horrendous to me, Sarah.
Oh, but it's one of the most spectacular sights in sport. And I can tell you, it's pretty exhilarating just being there.
The field is already starting to spread out as they head out towards the first turn. You can see from the map that it's 850 metres to the first buoy, a long leg to the second at 2,300, a short leg to the beach, then back to the finish, a total of 4 kilometres.
And we can see here 2 spearheads are forming behind the fastest swimmers, with the leading group on the left-hand side as they make their way out to the first buoy.
Of course, it's difficult to see who's leading at the moment.
And it looks like the leader is Wolfgang Dittrich. A superb swimmer, it's not surprising that he's ahead at this stage.
He's already built up quite a lead, and we're not long into the race.
A point I've got about the swim was not all the wetsuits were black. There were some great coloured wetsuits. No. So they were either like fully coloured or they were black with coloured panelling. And some brands that you don't see now, ProMotion, Alida. Of course, it's France. There's lots of Aquaman suits. Jan Wanklin had like a fully turquoise sleeveless suit. Dave Scott had a black Alida, but he had the mini orange arms, like the suit I used to have, like the Hydrotech I had. And then Paula Newby-Fraser had a long sleeve suit. It was fully black, but it had like full pink arms. So it kind of almost looked, from a distance, looked sleeveless.
Right, maybe that was the aim.
Possibly, yeah, to kind of psych people out.
Sort of moving on at the end of the swim, I've got the bit where, and I remember this from back in when we first saw it and stuff, that Sarah Springman and Ian Sweet sort of contempt for Poulard and Stefan Poulard and the time he takes in transition.
Yeah.
When you're thinking he's just making sure things are right before he heads out for 120k of mountainous bike riding.
Yeah.
Where they say, is he gonna even have a 3-course meal?
Exactly, yeah.
But it was a big thing for him.
Yeah, it was. And they was kind of saying he was unknown, but he was kind of big on the French junior scene. He eventually took part in the 2004 Olympics. And 3 weeks after Nice, he got second in the European Junior Championships. And although he was in the older category, he went 5 minutes quicker than Spencer Smith. No 3-course meal that day.
No. He beat the roast beef.
This is Stefan Poulard, the Frenchman. He's out the water in 44.59, a very good time. Hat off and through the showers.
And he must be nearly a minute up on the chasing group. Goodness me, there he goes, washing it off. A little bit of indecision, I can't believe it. These people should know where they're going. Up the stairs now.
And this is the chasing pack headed by Cordier, and we can see Alan right on his heels. He's been like that throughout the whole swim. Back in the transition now with Poulard.
Well, he doesn't seem to be hurrying too much.
And here's Cordier. He's out the water now in 45.47. A quick time once more.
But he's used to winning the swim here in Nice, so perhaps not so good for him.
And here's Mark Allen, the favourite. He's taking his time, leaving nothing to chance. Very experienced at this sort of thing. And this is the rest of the pack coming out, headed by the Spaniard. There's Mike Pigg, Rob Burrell, they're all there. No, they're not. There's no Dave Scott.
And still, Poulard is in the transition area. My goodness me, I think he ought to have a 3-course meal now.
Oh, well, just going back one. Just one thing I spotted, which I thought was good. I think it used to happen a lot more, but we were still in the era of heading out onto the bike with a bum bag.
Oh, love it.
Paula Newbury-Fraser has a bum bag on fanny pack to our international listeners.
But she was wearing a fanny pack in Hawaii at the time as well.
Yeah, and I've seen a video where lots of people do, and I think there's an early Hawaii I've seen where they all seem to be wearing the same one. Oh. So I don't know if it was in their goodie bag or not, but
eBay, I need one.
Yeah, an 87 Hawaii bum bag.
So also at the end of the swim, Sarah says they're checking the hats, and you see these people on a table like counting the swim hats, and she says making sure there's no one left in the Baie des Anges. And before chip timing, this is how you did it. You counted the hats, and then you sent the divers in to pull the bodies out.
From the sea, yeah.
And here they are checking the hats, making sure there's no one left in the Baie des Anges.
There's one point at the end of the swim as well where there's a group that gets out, and you're just like, I think we've just sort of discussed the level of field here, but they all get out of the swim in one group, and you're like, this is phenomenal. Like they list the names as they're coming out, and it's the who's who of triathlon back then.
At 18:15, you get the first Villages speech from Ian, where he talks about like the spectacular backdrop. But I think it's worth mentioning because it is spectacular. When we see professional triathlon on TV these days, it's not always spectacular, but this was. Going through the villages, Carros, Gillette, Roquesteron, Gatier, Le Broc, Bouillon were the sort of main ones. There's a helicopter shot of Alan descending, and it was spectacular. It definitely needed mentioning.
It's like a tour stage. It's a stage of the Tour de France, isn't it? It's that sort of thing. It's up and down, it's rolling. Whereas, as you say, you see a lot of modern triathlons, and you're like, well, if you presented this to a pro cycling peloton, they'd be like, oh, you're all right, thanks.
Yeah. And you couldn't do the Villages speech on modern day WTCS courses. It's, up a dual carriageway, round some cones and back.
The hills of the Alpes Maritimes are dotted with a series of picturesque villages that make a spectacular backdrop to the race. But while it makes the course a breathtaking scenic ride, it's also probably the toughest and most technically demanding bike section of any triathlon in the world. The mountainous part starts at Gatière and covers 80 kilometers of the course, while the other 40 kilometers are much flatter and start and finish on the Nice Promenade.
I tell you, one of the delights of this race is going through these beautiful villages.
The villages, yeah, the people are what make this race so special.
This is the only race that I've ever been at where the people line the entire course all the way out into the mountains on the bike, the entire way on the run, and it makes you feel like you're in a Tour de France. It makes you really feel like you're as an athlete, it's an exciting place to race.
I remember the first time I did Nice in 95, I was up on these roads and I had like Ian Sweet in my head. I'm like, I am in Eurosport now, riding through these places, and every time I came into a village and saw the sign, I was like, oh yeah, like I've seen Mark Allen ride through here on Eurosport.
On his Huffy with the head, yeah. Talking of Alan riding, this bike intrigued up me and possibly you for ages. I think he'd recently signed for Huffy, hadn't he?
Yeah, and he was awaiting the Huffy Triton.
Yeah, but this bike, it was simple but amazing at the same time. He had this super long Scott clip-ons, which are sort of reminiscent, and he was in a position which is not dissimilar at all from the sort of position pros are using now in these long races. Yeah, it was just seemed to me, obviously the footage is quite grainy and we don't see these pictures like we would now, but the bike looks it could have been covered in insulation tape for all I know, but it just looks super clean, and the head wheel, the classic head logo wheel, it was amazing. Yeah, and everything about his kit was what I sort of aimed for, really.
Yeah, the hand position sort of far out and high is kind of very reminiscent of what people are doing today, but I'm pretty sure these extra long Scott bars were never available. They were a prototype, and Scott never did a clip-on so long, did they? At least not in that model. Later on, they might have.
No.
It was still the model with the sort of basic rounded end.
Yeah. Well, we were still in early days of Scott, I think, where they were still bending all sorts for people, weren't they, I think?
Yeah. You mentioned it earlier, like the depth of the field, but at 20 minutes, you get a very brief clip, and I think it's from the back, and it's the chasing pack, and you've got Dave Scott, Rob Burrell, Ken Glar, Philippe Métillon, Serge Lecreek is in there, and Ray Browning, and mixed in is sort of motorbikes, so whether they're sort of officials or press or just people out on their motorbike ride on a Sunday, you don't know. But it's just a good shot of the race going on.
Yes, yeah, no, that is, the depth is astounds me every time they flick to a sort of they concentrate on the lead, and every time they flick back a bit, you're like, oh, well, there's still Dave Scott back there.
Here's the men's favourite, Mark Allen. He's still in second place, closely tracked by Mike Pigg. For Mike, staying in touch with Mark Allen here is vital.
Main key is I got to stay with him. If I'm not with him off the bike, then the whole race is over with. If he ever gets up to the front and the race by himself, the race is over with too on the bike. So main goal is just to keep him in perspective. And then I think the rest of the guys we can drop in the bike ride.
Well, Pig's pretty confident, but I guess some of the others might have something to say about that. And here's Cordier.
He doesn't look too smooth this year, Sarah.
No, I believe he's been injured. He's had some operations, so perhaps he will struggle a little bit more this year.
Still the favourite of the crowds, though.
It's his hometown advantage, and here's the pack in fifth place, with Scott in the centre, Glar on the right, Burrell on the left, Frenchman, Métillon, a whole host of them. They're all there.
And of course, they're all chasing Wolfgang Dietrich. You can see here it's not plain sailing for everyone. This guy's got a slight problem with the puncture.
It's very annoying when it happens too. You're cycling along nicely and all of a sudden, poof, and you've no back wheel. And there's Dietrich, now in third place because Pigg has moved ahead and is in second. And there he is, chasing down Mark Allen, who's not far in front. This is getting very exciting, Ian.
Yes, it's becoming a real race. Alan here looking pretty relaxed. What do you think of his style, Sarah?
Very, very smooth, very smooth. Look at the aerodynamic handlebars too, with the cow horn shape normal bars and the extension out in front. He's using the same design as Greg LeMond used to win the Tour de France. Very, very cool and calm. He doesn't look as if he's doing anything hard at all.
Well, look at this. They really are spread out along the mountain roads.
Yes, of course, and on this slight descent here, you can see that speed is absolutely of the essence, and you must be completely aerodynamic to make the most of all the advantages you have. And really, look at them all spread out. We've just seen about 10 people on that stretch of road. Very exciting. Little packs here and there.
And this is Cordier in fourth spot, going through one of the many feed stations.
Perhaps he's having a drink of some of the 3,000 litres of Coke on offer.
Now we're back with the chasing group behind Cordier, with Dave Scott on the back end.
Looking as if he's making slightly heavy weather of it too. There's Ray Browning.
Rob Burrell.
And in the lead of that pack, Jeff Devlin.
Yes, we haven't seen much of him.
Well, he's a very strong runner, and he's been doing really well in the States so far.
2030, Dietrich explains his tactics. Do you know what they were?
Oh, is it that where he doesn't mind riding on his own, or am I getting that mixed up with the Hawaii?
The quote I've written down here, "Yeah, I try from the front."
Then that is as simple as that, is it? Well, yeah, he needs to.
That's his only tactic, but yeah, he was good at it.
Yeah.
Got a career out of that.
I was going to say, I don't think I ever saw him not try from the front. It would be weird to not try from the front when your swimming is your strong point.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to wait up, would you, and give all that advantage away.
Yeah.
And of course, they're all chasing Wolfgang Dietrich. Here he is in the front, and that's part of his plan.
Bike course is hard, so you can't push the whole course, but I have to go from the front because my running is too weak that when somebody passed me, I'm only second or third at the end, so I never come back. I tried from the front.
And that's what he's doing. Let's see how it all works out.
So 23:45, Pig's bike. So he was on a Centurion in 89, like Dave Scott, and then Centurion morphed into Diamondback at the back end of 89. So he wasn't on the Diamondback. Scott actually was on the Diamondback in 1990, and so Pig was on a Merlin, wasn't he?
Merlin Titanium, I would think. Yeah. His bike is a good bike. It's a classic bike, but he's got everything on it. If someone had brought out Triathlon tech, he had it. Yeah. He was putting it on. He had the seat shifter. Did he have a bike stream, a J disc? His looked all over the place, but great at the same time. Yeah.
So I've written a little aside about the seat shifter. So it was kind of a 1990 phenomenon. You didn't really see it after. So I wondered if the company closed and the sponsorships ended, or the athletes thought they were getting a weight penalty from it, that they didn't get back from the sort of speed advantage that you were supposed to get from it. And it was essentially like a spring-loaded sliding system that allowed you to pull a lever on your handlebars and change the fore-aft position of your saddle, right? So further back for climbing and further forward for hammering on the flats.
Yeah, an odd bit of kit, but like you get the theory behind it. It was just a little bit clunky.
And I went through all the magazines of 91 and there was none left. Like nobody was on them. But Dave Scott was also on the ad. So they ran an ad through 1990. Mike Pigg was on it. But Dave Scott was also on the ad. And I zoomed in to his bike at Nice and he absolutely was not on one.
Right. And I guess some courses don't even need you to shift in the seat. Like Nice is perfect because it has a lot of climbing and then a lot of flat. But I suppose if it's only got a lot of flat, you don't need to do a great deal of shifting.
No, and it changed the saddle height every time as well. And I don't know, I wouldn't like that, but some people maybe don't notice it. And then he had a J-disc.
Yeah.
Mike Pigg, pink J-disc. So J-discs were sort of colourful disc wheels, right? Jeff Devlin is also riding a yellow one when you see him in the chasing group. And the J-disc, it wasn't sort of a carbon wheel, like the Campags, the Mavics, the heads. It was like a taut mylar film bonded to a spoke wheel. So in theory, you could true it, and it was super light.
Yeah, it was a regular wheel to a degree, in air quotes, with a semi-permanent skin over it, wasn't it? I think. But, but certainly amazing.
I've done blog posts about the J-disc and the seat shifter, so I'll link to them in the show notes so people can see the ads and the photos. But it was certainly an iconic bike, Pigg's 1990 bike.
Yeah. Another thing I've got is that there was a point where there were just riders on the course.
Yeah.
And I think this is sort of a French thing, where they're like, well, there's a sporting event going on in the hills I ride in. I'm going to get out there and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And equally amusing and not amusing, different times.
People out on their weekend bike ride, right? Riding up in amongst competitors.
I was going to say, and then it brings us to a potentially a horrendous crash when Pig and Alan go either side of Route Marshall.
Yeah.
With some great commentary from Sarah Springman saying, "Oh, it looks like he needed his legs shaved," or some such phrase.
Yeah, they were unbelievably close to wiping out the Marshall and themselves.
This is one of the first triathlons I'd seen. That's something that sort of stayed with me forever. Like, I know about the leg shaved bit, and my two favourite triathletes at the time, just buzzing this Marshall.
This is a real head-to-head along the final section.
Now, only last 2 or 3 kilometres along the Promenade des Anglais before they come into the transition area, and they'll already be thinking about the run. Oh, my goodness. I think he wanted his legs shaved or something, Ian.
That was a close call.
It was. A bit frightening. Anyway, they'll now be thinking about the run, getting themselves ready.
Just before that happened, they show a shot of them two riding. So they're on the Promenade des Anglais again in sort of the last 5K, right? And there's a shot of them riding side by side, which obviously now is an absolute no-no. But back then you could ride side by side. But this really captured my imagination that one day I would be leading Nice side by side, like not 12 metres back, 20 metres back. I'd be side by side with somebody.
When you look at it, the whole course is a bit of a mess. There's runners going out, runners coming in, bikes coming in, all pretty much on the same lane of road, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a lot going on that bit of road.
Meanwhile, back on the promenade, it's Pig and Alan, side by side, slugging it out. Look at the difference in the styles there. Alan very, very smooth. Pig's hips rocking up and down to try and push the big gear over. But they're still travelling together at the same speed.
This is Dietrich back in third spot. He's about 2 minutes down, approaching Nice Airport.
He's looking very good. Can he hold on? Back to Newbie Fraser now, on the last descent.
She's still up on her toes.
Pig and Alan along the promenade now. Note Pig's position. He's sitting very far forward. He's got a special machine that allows him to change his saddle position and move it forward over the pedals if you want. And then, of course, they've got the disc wheels. Every aerodynamic advantage is taken.
This is a real head-to-head along the final section.
Now, only last 2 or 3 kilometres along the Promenade des Anglais before they come into the transition area.
37.10, nice. Pig and Alan are going in opposite directions. And they do the hand slap. And in my notes here that I wrote several weeks ago, I said, do people still do this? I mean, we do. But I was wondering if other people still do it. And a couple of weeks ago, I was in a race with another guy from my club who I kind of know fairly well. And he was coming at me. And I was like, will he? Won't he? I don't want to present a hand if he doesn't. And then about sort of 30 metres out from crossing, his hand's up. And we do it. And then we did it second lap too.
High one or a low one?
No, kind of a mid one.
A low one?
Yeah, mid one, like
right.
the Alan Pig one.
This is one of my enduring memories of this, in that, like, I watched this as a 12-year-old, and, like, that's what, I just assumed that that's what you do. Not with everyone, but I would put a hand out for you, I'd put a hand out for a teammate.
We've got to bring it back. If not enough people are doing it, we need to introduce it. People will see it, it'll spread.
Yeah, maybe we need to draw up some rules.
This is Jeff Devlin, who looks to be struggling. He's most probably suffering from the early pace, as he's now back in 6th place and dropping.
Well, 32 kilometres is a long way to run. Straight out, straight back, very hot, and you can see the heat haze. Back to Mark Allen.
He's just passing Pig here, so he knows exactly where he is.
That's rather nice, shaking hands on the way. They're all really friendly, these guys. Train together a lot, race together almost every weekend.
Luke, are you going to do it or am I?
Yes, I'll do it. just after the 5 lap, about a minute later, you have a shot of Dave Scott just taking a wee in the street on the course.
Yeah.
And I think we discussed this off recording. That back in the day, I just thought, oh, he's just taking a wee and getting on with it. But now I just think, as an adult, I'm like, that's horrendous. This is a horrendous thing to do. They make a little bit of a joke of it on the commentary.
Yeah, I remember watching it, being amused by it and thinking it was just normal. I mean, he obviously slows down to sort of, redistribute the blood flow, etc. But then, and they're showing him from the back. Like, it's not an X-rated sort of Eurosport movie or anything. But now you look at it and you go, ooh, you couldn't do that. You'd be DQ'd for a start. But nudity in transition in France, especially, was absolutely a thing. Pre-race, during the race, after the race, you get changed.
There's Scott. Is he in trouble?
No, I don't think so. Just a small problem. Seems to have taken on too much fluid. Much happier.
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but at 40 minutes, there's just a great, I think, shot of Pig, like with his peak up, oaring his way to the finish in that Pig manner that he does.
I loved his running style. It wasn't textbook, but I loved it because he just looked like he was giving everything all the time.
Yeah, head back.
Oh yes, and there's Pig. Haven't seen him for a while. Making a fairly lonely trip back. A little bit of water, cooling down.
So a big year for the Brits, kind of. So Alan Ingerfield was in the top 10, but then he had a problem with his wheel and he had to DNF. But 2 years later, in 1992, what would he do?
He would get the British Ironman record.
Not only, the first British athlete under 9 hours.
Then went on to create Boardman bikes.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, not only did he go under 9 hours, first British athlete under 9 hours, he did 8:37.
Oh, right, yeah, so he took a huge chunk off, yeah.
The first British athlete in Nice was Nick Walter. He was 58th place. And Harry Webb was 4th vet. Welsh athlete Bill Pegler had won the vets race in 87. And Harry Webb was kind of a local athlete to us, right?
Yeah, always ancient. But then when you're young, everyone is, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. At this time, he was probably just over 40. But he was a bit of a hero for me because not only did we see him at lots of races, but he was someone who was better than me, but I could see myself beating him soon. So I kind of judged my performances on him. So I'd look down the results. Oh, how far was I behind Harry Webb? And then the week after, I'm a little bit closer to Harry Webb.
He was your Jessica Harrison to me.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I used to see her and think, she can beat me at the moment, but I could see myself beating her. And then I couldn't.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. She got so good that he was just... Whereas Harry Webb was always going to slow down, wasn't he? Because he was always going to get a little bit older and I was going to get a little bit quicker. And I did eventually beat it. Probably a few years later, I must admit, maybe 93, something like that. Yeah, he was local to us, so we saw him at lots of races. He also used to build wheels and bikes.
Yes.
That's all I've got, Luke.
No, that's all I've got, and it was good.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and thanks, Luke.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
So race reports with the results and all the images are in the show notes. In my opinion, the French report has the best pictures. Show notes for this episode can be found at thestreetpodcast.com/podcast/26. And as usual, if you've got a question, a correction, some extra historical information, like were you there at Nice in 1990, Harry Webb, get in touch. Or you just want to say hi, you can email us at thestreetpodcast@gmail.com.
Meanwhile, Alan's coming up to the finish. He knows his record's going to be broken, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, getting tremendous support from everyone.
Yeah, well, there's a fantastic crowd out there. The atmosphere is absolutely superb for Alan to come across the line and win his 7th Nice title. This is most superb performance. This man is such an athlete. The atmosphere is really building as he approaches the line now, and he's acknowledging everybody. He is excited.
Would you believe it? Look at the clock. I think we can just see the clock. Yeah, it's going to be 5:50, 51, 52. What a fantastic performance by Mark Allen.
He is so happy, really thrilled, and everybody is going to mob him in a moment. They can't believe it. 7 times he's entered this race and 7 times he's won it. little bit of water all the way back, and wait for all the pressmen to come around him. He's going to fight for air.
And this is Pig just coming into the finish. He's going to be just under 10 minutes behind Mark Allen in a time of just over 6 hours. Still a great effort by Mike Pig.
Yes, and look at the slight drop of the shoulders, slightly dejected. It always feels just that little bit worse, and you feel just that little bit more tired when you come in second. But it's an improvement on last year by 1 place. And he still had to finish second to this man, Mark Allen, undefeated for over 1 year now.
Well, here we have Burrell. He's passed Dietrich and coming into 3rd place. What a run by Burrell. He's only 2 minutes behind Mike Pig, a little longer, and he might have got there.
Matter of pride to be the first European across the line. Burrell will be happy. 2nd last year, 3rd this year.
And here's Dietrich in 4th place. A great performance. But let's hear now from the star of the day, Mark Allen, with that incredible record.
Yeah, I was really amazed. I didn't think I could go that fast, and I get to turn around to the run, and I saw my clock, and I thought, well, I'll be close. 4 minutes, that was amazing. It's a much different race this year. I think it was hotter, too. I felt hotter out there.
Well, Mark was really hot today, as were all the competitors. And here's Dave Scott finishing in 5th place. A great effort. 6 hours, 6 minutes dead. Fantastic performance by Dave Scott on his return to Nice. And here are the final results. Allen first with a new record, 5 hours, 50 minutes and 52 seconds. Pig second, Burrell third, Dietrich 4th, and Scott 5th. And now, under a blazing hot sun, we wait for the women to come home.
Well, it's 3Ks to go now for the race leader in the women's race, Paula Newby-Fraser. She's not going to break the record, but she's a long way in front, maybe up to 10 minutes now. She's cruising along, enjoying the last little bit of the run along the Promenade des Anglais.
And here's Thea Sibsma, back in 3rd place.
20 minutes behind me!
She's a bit concerned, but doesn't have to worry, as she's 6 minutes in front of Silviana Puntis in 4th spot.
And looking a little bit tired, too. I wonder where her sister is, and there she is, Patricia, just a little bit behind. Both making slightly slower progress than I'm sure they would like, probably with about 10 kilometers left to run. But here's Hansen. Distinctive running style, looking very, very good still.
She's coming up to, what, 4Ks to go?
I would think, and she's 3 minutes in front of Sibsma, and there's Newby-Fraser, making the most of the last bit in Cordier.
She's just past Cordier. He won't like that at all.
No, he won't, but at least he's hung in there and he's finishing. Good for him. And there's Newby-Fraser, making the most of it. Lots of support for her, lots of appreciation for another superb athletic performance.
This is Jan Wanklin, the early leader. She's back in 6th spot, but she's hanging on well. A great race all the same. Cooling herself down, she looks pretty hot.
And Newby-Fraser now coming into the finish area. Last 100 meters to go. Lots of support and cheering from the crowd. She must be really excited to come back here to Nice. 2nd year in a row to defend her title. That's brilliant. First woman ever to do that, and it's marvellous. Both Mark Allen and Newby-Fraser winning again. Good for Paula.
Well, that was a great time. It was 6 hours, 36:19. And although not the record, I'm sure she'll be extremely satisfied.
Well, she looks pretty happy there, and everybody's congratulating her. Well done, Paula.
I think I did about the time I predicted I would. I thought to myself that I would do.
Any doubts in the course?
No. Felt really, had a great swim, felt really strong on the bike, and just knew that I had to run steady. I think if I got off the bike with a few minute lead, I didn't think anybody would catch me.
And that's exactly what happened. Whilst Newby-Fraser recovers from the rigours of this hard day, others are finishing. And here comes Kirsten Hansen in 2nd place, just under 10 minutes behind. A great performance for Hansen's return to Nice. She's absolutely delighted, and so she should be. Yes, she has a quick look. It's 6 hours, 46 and 1 second. I wonder how she enjoyed her day here.
Great day out there. I couldn't have asked for a better day. Just beautiful.
And here comes the third lady home. It's Thea Zizner from Holland. She's held on to that third place. Her debut at Nice. A great performance. Staying relaxed right up to the end. She's ecstatic. But as you can see, she's extremely tired, as she has every right to be after 6 hours, 49 minutes and 33 seconds, which gave her third place.